Welcome back, everyone, to another deep dive.
Ooh, exciting.
It is.
Yeah.
Today, we're going back in time a bit
Okay.
to early 20th century Connecticut,
All right.
to a place that earned itself a rather chilling nickname,
Oh.
the Murder Factory.
Oh, wow. Okay. So
Yeah,
not a very nice place.
not a very nice place at all.
No.
And it's all centered around this seemingly unassuming nursing home.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So it's like the Archer home for the elderly and infirm.
Okay.
It's one of those cases that really reminds you that you can't always judge a book by its cover.
Oh, absolutely.
Or a nursing home by its rocking chairs, I guess.
Right. Yeah, those sweet little old ladies, they're not always so sweet, are they?
Not always.
No.
So we're diving deep into the world of Amy Archer-Gilligan,
Okay.
the woman behind this murder factory.
All right.
And you know what's fascinating about this?
What's that?
All this is coming from her Wikipedia page.
Oh, wow. So it just goes to show there are fascinating stories everywhere, even on Wikipedia.
I know, right?
Yeah.
It just goes to show that history can be fascinating even when it comes from those sources that we just kind of take for granted.
Yeah. I think we've all kind of gotten that impression. I mean, even on like the most well-known cases.
Yeah.
There's always some little detail or something that you find that you never knew before.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
I think that's one of the things that I love about doing these deep dives.
Me too. Yeah, it's like
You know,
a treasure hunt.
yeah, check for information.
Now, this story might sound like something out of a dark comedy
Oh, really?
or a play,
Hmm.
like Arsenic and Old Lace.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I can see that.
There's actually a rumor that this case was the inspiration for that play.
Oh, wow.
But,
Interesting.
as we're about to discover, the reality is actually much more sinister than any work of fiction.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's get started then.
Okay, so let's start at the beginning.
Okay.
Amy Duggan
Hmm.
was born in 1873,
All right.
one of 10 children.
Wow, big family.
Wow.
It's a big family.
Yeah.
Pretty normal upbringing as far as we know.
Okay.
Nothing really jumps out as foreshadowing this dark path that she's about to go down.
Right.
She married James Archer in 1897.
Okay.
They had a daughter named Mary.
Mm-hmm.
Seems like a pretty typical family, at least on the surface.
Yeah. Very normal so far.
Yeah.
So when do things take a turn?
Well, the first step down this dark path happened in 1901.
Okay.
When the Archers were hired to care for this elderly widower named John Seymour.
Okay.
He's pretty harmless, right?
Yeah, just like a...
Just a couple looking after an older gentleman.
Yeah.
But this is where the pattern begins.
Oh, okay. I sense a butt coming.
Yeah. What happened? John Seymour died in 1904.
Okay.
And this is where things get interesting.
All right, lay it on me.
The Archers converted his house
Oh, wow.
into a boarding house,
Okay.
specifically for elderly people.
So they kind of got a taste for elder care and saw an opportunity there.
Yeah, it's almost like that first death kind of gave them a taste of, well, let's just say a way to deal with problems permanently.
Ooh, that's dark.
Yeah.
All right, well, so they're running this boarding house.
Yeah.
What happens next?
So they're running this boarding house, and then in 1907,
Oh, okay.
they decided to take it a step further.
Oh, boy.
They opened their own establishment,
Oh, no.
the Archer Home for the Elderly and Infirm.
And that's when all those whispers about a murder factory started happening.
That's exactly when those whispers started.
Okay, so how many people are we talking about here?
So between 1907 and 1917,
Okay.
a staggering 60 people died at the Archer Home.
60.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Now, you might be thinking,
Fair.
well, it's a home for the elderly people,
Right.
but the rate at which they were dying,
Yeah.
it was far from normal.
Yeah, I was going to say, was that typical for a facility like that back then?
Not at all, no.
Okay.
And you have to remember, this was a time when old age was a very common cause of death.
Right.
Doctors weren't always looking for foul play, especially in a setting like a nursing home.
Right. It probably made it easier for her to conceal her crimes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And to break it down even further,
Okay.
there were 12 deaths in the first 3 years,
Mm-hmm.
but then 48 in the next 5 years.
Wow, that's a huge increase.
Yeah, that's a massive red flag, right?
Huge. Yeah.
What was going on in those 5 years?
Well, there's another piece to this puzzle that we need to add.
Okay.
In 1910,
Okay.
James Archer died.
Amy's husband.
Yes, Amy's husband
Mhm.
from what was called Bright's disease. We know it today as kidney failure.
So,
But here's the thing.
Oh.
Just weeks before his death, Amy took out a life insurance policy on him.
wow, so this is all starting to sound very suspicious.
Very suspicious. And that insurance money
Yeah.
allowed Amy to continue running the Archer home
Alone.
alone.
Okay, so the plot thickens.
It does.
And I'm guessing the deaths didn't stop with James.
You are correct.
Okay.
Amy wasn't single for long. In 1913,
Mm-hmm.
she married a widower named Michael Gilligan,
Okay.
supposedly quite wealthy
Oh.
and interested in investing in the Archer home.
All right. So they get married, and
He dies too.
he dies too.
Within 3 months.
Wow.
Officially, it was an acute bilious attack.
What is that?
Basically just a really bad case of indigestion.
Indigestion. Come on.
Right.
That seems way too convenient.
Extremely convenient, especially considering that Michael left his entire estate to Amy in his will.
Of course he did.
A will which was later proven to be a forgery,
Oh, my God.
written in Amy's own handwriting.
Wow. Okay, so we've got 2 husbands,
Mm.
both conveniently dying,
Yep.
leaving her financially secure.
Yes.
All this happening while residents at her nursing home are dropping like flies.
Yeah, this is not looking good.
This is getting more disturbing by the minute.
It is, and it's about to take another dark turn.
Oh, boy.
One of those 48 deaths
Hmm.
is really going to start to unravel Amy's carefully constructed facade.
All right, I'm on the edge of my seat. Tell me more.
In 1914, a resident named Franklin R. Andrews died suddenly.
Okay.
One day he's gardening,
What?
the next he's dead.
Mm-hmm.
Officially a gastric ulcer.
Okay.
But Franklin's sister, Nellie Pierce, noticed something strange in his letters.
Ooh, what did she find?
Amy was constantly pressuring him for money.
Uh,
Remember that pattern
Yeah.
of residents dying after
Like-
giving Amy large sums?
yes.
Franklin fit that pattern perfectly.
Oh, boy.
And Nellie,
Yeah.
she wasn't going to let it slide.
Good for her.
Yeah, she sounds like a force to be reckoned with.
I think she's going to be instrumental in bringing Amy down.
She is.
Okay.
And that's where we'll pick up in part 2 of our deep dive.
So we left off with Nellie Pierce Franklin's sister, sensing something was very wrong
Right.
with her brother's death.
Yeah.
And it's amazing how that sibling intuition
Mm-hmm.
can really be the key to uncovering the truth.
It's true.
What did she do?
Well, she suspected foul play
Mm-hmm.
and decided to take action. You know, imagine the courage that it took
Yeah,
to challenge the status quo back then,
I could only imagine.
especially when dealing with something as sensitive as a death in the family.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what did she do?
Well, she went straight to the local district attorney,
Okay.
hoping to share her suspicions and prompt an investigation.
Yeah.
But sadly, her concerns were dismissed.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
How frustrating.
Oh, I know.
It's like hitting a brick wall when you know in your heart that something's wrong.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, but she didn't give up, right?
No, she didn't.
She was convinced that Amy was behind it. So what does she do next?
Well, she decided to take her story to a much wider audience.
Okay.
She contacted the Hartford Courant.
Ooh, the power of the press.
Yes?
That's a bold move, especially back then.
It was a turning point in the case.
Okay.
In May 1916,
Hmm.
the Hartford Courant published a series of articles
Okay.
exposing what they called the murder factory,
Wow.
referring to the Archer home. Those articles must have sent shockwaves through the community.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Imagine reading about a place where you thought was a safe haven
Right?
for the elderly,
Yeah.
only to discover that it might be a hotbed of murder.
I can't even imagine the fear and outrage that people must have
Mhm.
felt.
Mm-hmm.
So did the authorities finally take notice?
They did.
Okay.
Public pressure mounted.
Mhm.
They could no longer ignore these allegations.
Yeah.
So a year-long investigation was launched.
Wow, a whole year.
Mm-hmm. Into the deaths at the Archer home.
It's fascinating how sometimes it takes that kind of like media attention
Yeah.
to really get the wheels of justice turning.
It's true.
So what did the investigators find?
Well, the investigation culminated in a rather grim but necessary step.
Okay.
The exhumation of 5 bodies.
Exhumations.
Yeah.
That's serious business.
Mm-hmm.
What made them decide to exhume those particular bodies?
Well, they chose to exhume Michael Gilligan.
Okay, her husband.
Yes.
Huh?
Franklin Andrews. And 3 other Archer home residents who had died under suspicious circumstances. Their deaths fit that pattern that Nellie had described.
Yeah.
Residents passing away shortly after large sums of money went to Amy.
Right.
So they were piecing together a very disturbing puzzle.
It sounds like it.
Mm-hmm.
So what did the exhumations reveal?
The results were chilling.
Okay.
The autopsy showed that all 5 victims had been poisoned,
Wow.
some with arsenic,
Oh my God.
others with strychnine.
That's horrifying.
Yeah. Finally, concrete evidence to support Nellie's suspicions.
Mm-hmm. So what happened next?
Well, the investigation continued. More incriminating evidence came to light.
Okay.
Local merchants testified that Amy had been purchasing large quantities of arsenic.
Did she try to explain those purchases away?
Oh, she did.
Okay.
She claimed she was using it for rat poison.
Oh, the classic excuse.
Right.
But I'm guessing the investigators weren't buying it?
Not for a second.
Okay.
They dug a little deeper and uncovered an even more damning piece of the puzzle.
Oh.
Records showed that Amy had been sending her patients to buy arsenic for her.
Oh, wow. So she was using these vulnerable people to unknowingly participate in their own demise.
Yeah.
That's a whole new level of cruelty.
The investigation really painted a clear picture.
Yeah.
Amy was a master manipulator, preying on the elderly, exploiting their trust, and ultimately taking their lives for her own financial gain.
Right. It's a stark reminder that evil can really lurk behind the most unassuming facades.
It's true.
So with this mountain of evidence against her, what happened next? Did she finally face justice?
That's what we'll uncover in the final part of our deep dive.
We've uncovered a truly shocking story so far.
It really is.
Amy Archer-Gilligan, this seemingly harmless nursing home proprietor, is now exposed as this calculated killer.
Yeah.
And I can't help but think about the families of the victims.
Oh, yeah.
The pain and betrayal they must have felt.
It's a heartbreaking thought.
Especially back then.
Yeah.
You know, when people place so much trust in caretakers.
Absolutely.
To have that trust shattered in such a horrific way.
Yeah, I can't even imagine.
So with all this evidence stacked against her, what happened next?
Well, she maintained her innocence.
Okay.
And prepared for trial.
All right.
Her first trial took place in 1917.
Okay.
And the prosecution decided to focus on one specific case.
Okay, which one?
The murder of Franklin R. Andrews.
Okay.
It was a smart move, really.
Why is that?
Well, presenting a clear and concise case, focusing on one victim, it prevented the jury from being overwhelmed with too much information.
That makes sense.
You know, this was a time when forensic science was still in its early stages.
Right.
So they needed to present a clear narrative that the jury could easily follow.
Okay, so focusing on Franklin Andrews,
Yeah.
whose sister had been so vocal
Right.
in pushing for justice, was definitely a strategic move.
Exactly, and it proved to be effective.
So what happened?
The jury found Amy guilty of Franklin's murder.
Wow.
And she was sentenced to death.
Wow. That's a huge victory for Nellie.
Yeah.
And all of those who suspected her involvement in the other deaths.
Right.
It seemed like justice was finally served. But you mentioned earlier that she ended up in a mental institution.
I did.
How did that happen?
Well, Amy appealed her death sentence.
Okay.
And she was granted a new trial in 1919.
A retrial. Wow. That's a pretty big turn of events.
It is.
What was her defense strategy this second time around?
Well, her lawyers went with an insanity plea.
Ugh.
They argued that she wasn't in control of her actions. Her daughter, Mary, even testified, claiming that Amy was addicted to morphine.
Morphine addiction and insanity plea. It makes you wonder.
It does, doesn't it?
What was really going on
Right.
in Amy's mind?
Yeah.
Was she a cold, calculated killer? Or was she struggling with something beyond her control?
Right. Was it all just a ploy to escape punishment?
It's a fascinating question that we may never have the answer to.
We may never know.
It's one of the things that makes this case so compelling.
Absolutely.
The line between sanity and insanity can be so blurry.
Yeah.
Especially when you're dealing with someone who was clearly capable of such calculated acts. So did the insanity plea work?
Well, not entirely.
Okay.
The jury in the second trial still found Amy guilty.
Okay.
However, this time the sentence was life in prison, not death.
So she escaped the death penalty.
Yes.
But still faced a lifetime behind bars. I imagine that was a real mixed bag of emotions.
Yeah.
For Nellie and the families of the other victims.
This must have been.
A sense of relief that she was finally being held accountable, but maybe also a lingering sense of injustice that she wouldn't face the ultimate penalty for her crimes.
Exactly.
And her story doesn't end there, right?
It doesn't. No.
You mentioned a mental institution.
Yes. In 1924, Amy was declared temporarily insane and transferred to the Connecticut Hospital for the Insane in Middletown.
Okay, so was the insanity declaration genuine?
Right.
Or was this some kind of legal maneuver?
We may never know for sure,
Right.
So we're left to speculate about her true mental state,
Right.
whether her actions were driven by malice or some kind of deeper psychological turmoil.
It's a reminder that the human mind is a complex and often very enigmatic thing.
It is.
So Amy spent the rest of her days in that institution.
She did.
A far cry from the life she built at the Archer home.
Right.
What a dramatic fall from grace.
It is. And her story really serves as a chilling reminder that evil can really lurk in unexpected places.
Absolutely.
It highlights the importance of critical thinking, questioning authority, and advocating for those who can't advocate for themselves.
Absolutely.
I mean, Nellie's persistence in seeking justice for her brother is truly inspiring.
It really is.
It shows the power of one person's determination to expose the truth.
And it also underscores the vital role of a free press.
Yes.
In holding those in power accountable.
Absolutely. I mean, imagine if Nellie hadn't gone to the Hartford Courant.
Right.
Amy might have continued her deadly operation for who knows how long.
That's a scary thought.
It is.
Well, this deep dive into the case of Amy Archer-Gilligan has been both fascinating and unsettling.
Right.
It's a story filled with twists and turns, reminding us that truth can often be stranger than fiction.
Absolutely.
If this case piqued your interest, I encourage you to explore further.
Yes, there's so much information available, newspaper articles, historical accounts, even podcasts dedicated to unraveling all the mysteries surrounding Amy Archer-Gilligan.
So as you delve deeper, ask yourself, could a case like this happen today? What safeguards are in place to protect the vulnerable? And what can we learn from Nellie's bravery and determination to seek justice?
That's the beauty of a deep dive like this, It's not just about uncovering the past, but using it to inform the present and the future.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for joining us on this journey into the dark world of Amy Archer-Gilligan.
Of course.
Until next time, keep exploring.
Yes.
Keep questioning and keep diving deep.